PFC leadership has evolved as a separate organization from PFC.net so that we can focus on projects that are important to the event and beyond. Our main focus is HELM, healing, education, leadership, and meditation. These are the areas where we focus our attention. We support the Sintamani Gridwork Project, Key to Freedom, weekly synchronized global meditations, building a strong foundation of local community leaders that are confident in their ability and willing to lead their community into a peaceful transition, bringing new information and technologies like tachyon chambers for healing and into everyday language and acceptance, creating educational forums for the members from which to learn and participate. In the near future, we will bring opportunities for you to purchase Sintamani stones and other products that promote health and wellness. We anticipate a new world arising from our collective energy. We focus on the positive aspects of the future that we are creating. We are a force for unity. Because we are separate from PFC.net, we have our own bills to pay and own charities which we support. We need your help to continue to do the work before us. When considering donations, please go to pfcleadership.org to make your donations. Thank you. So I would like to introduce my friend Kosta Makreas and how to move forward with doing this. I had absolutely no perception of how this could be done. So I enlisted Kosta. I emailed back and forth with him, and he was gracious enough to give me much information and help me to move forward with CE5s in the Los Angeles area. And later, if we have time, we'll talk about some of those miraculous occurrences that happen with CE5s. But without further ado, I want to introduce Kosta and welcome him to prepareforchangeleadership.org and thank him for taking his time out of this day to instruct us in how to do CE5 events.
Hi, thank you very much, Lynn. It's a pleasure to meet you again here face to face, and also welcome the rest of your leadership team. Hi, everybody.
Okay, well, Kosta, we're going to start out with some basic questions. And what I'd first like to know from you is, how did you get started in CE5s? How did you come to even thinking about ET contact?
You know, at the tender age of 65 now, I would have never imagined earlier in my life or leaving school and all that at this age, I would be doing this. So that's a really critical question. I could not even have conceived decades ago that this type of thing was possible, and much less that I'd be involved with it. But the short answer is that I, probably like a lot of you, I had a childhood interest in things to do with space. I was into science fiction. Back then, NASA in the 60s was kind of all over the airwaves with the Apollo programs, Gemini, Mercury, and had captivated the imagination of the whole world. And as a young boy, I was no different in that way. I also was interested in astronomy, and so always had my eye on the sky, one way or the other. I picked up my first UFO book, I think around the age of 10 or 11, and it had a picture on the cover of the classic saucer shape with a dome on top, and lots of black and white shiny pictures inside. And so I was smitten right there, and just knew I had to learn more about this topic and hope that someday I would see one of these. Well, flash forward to 2006, many decades later, after I did a lot of conventional things. I went to school, got a degree in computer science and math, and got married, got divorced, had kids, all that. And I found myself here in the San Francisco Bay Area in the early 80s. And one afternoon in 2006, I was just surfing on the net and wondering where the UFO field had gone since I had been interested in it as a kid. And boy, it was like drinking from a fire hose. As you can imagine, the internet was full of all kinds of things going on with UFOs. But again, I was smitten for the second time. And a little while later, I went to a week-long retreat at Mount Shasta under the stars, which is what changed my life. And so since 2006, I haven't been the same. It's been 12 years. And when I had a lot of contact during that week doing CE5 at the foot of Mount Shasta, again, I knew that I could not drop this, that it was something I wanted to continue to pursue for myself. And because I was, and I am a natural born organizer, because I was involved in my teens and 20s in a lot of the social movements of the time, the anti-war movement in Vietnam, the environmental movement, the women's movement, I was always thinking in big picture terms of people changing things and how the individual can do something to be a leader, right, instead of just a follower. So when I discovered that I could interact with ET intelligence that week at Mount Shasta, I wanted to organize people who I knew were out there in the world to teach them how to do the very same thing that I had been taught to do and to have the same success. So that was the really big picture. And I'll tell you a quick story about really what launched all of that for me. Fast forward from that, about several years later, after I had been going on many gatherings at Mount Shasta and making more and more contact, as well as having an up close and personal experience, by the way, where a spherical starcraft materialized in front of myself and 9 other people one night at Mount Shasta for half an hour and communicated telepathically with us, and also with, well, actually just with us all. And it was the kind of experience that I couldn't deny. Nobody could take that away from me. After half an hour, that particular small spherical craft kind of dematerialized slowly into the background. And again, I was changed, and I knew I had to like up my game. So I had a session in 2010, 4 years after that initial encounter, and ET intelligence came through. My wife, you should know, is a professional clairvoyant, and for many decades. And through her ET intelligence, one day, just kind of in during a regular kind of spiritual session that we were having with our guides. At that point, I asked intelligence, and I don't know who they were, and I don't really like to get into identifying and getting into the game of who's where and from where, although that does matter to me. But at that point, I was just kind of gobsmacked that I was able to have a conversation. And here's what they requested. And the reason the question was, the question to them was, you know, listen, I'd like to organize a lot of C5 groups out there. I know they're all over the world, and I'd like to get them going in a rhythmic, like monthly meditation, just one day of the month, where we all join together and present ourselves as incipient, embryonic cosmic humanity reaching out to the stars. I would love to do this, but I've got a full-time job, I told them, and this would be a labor-intensive effort, even with the internet. Would it be of any value to my ET friends, my star family, my star friends, for me to do this? Because I didn't really have the big picture that they may have. The immediate answer was yes. And the request they made was, would you form as many ET contact teams as possible, as quickly as possible? They told me that that would give them more permission to appear in many more places and many more cities, as they were honoring human free will and the human request to do so. And they said that as more people saw them around the world in more cities, the request would be coming even in greater numbers to them to show themselves, and they would show up in even more cities around the world where more humans would see them and ask them to show up in even more places. So you can kind of see this as like an organic kind of growth. And they called it a virtuous circle. And I asked them, well, what's the what's the end game for this? Why are we doing this? I can do this. I can help you. I can get the ball rolling with this and such. Well, they said that their aim was to reach a tipping point where so many people all over the world had seen craft or interacted in other ways, which isn't just about the lights in the sky, but in other ways too. So many people had made contact all over the world in such great numbers at that tipping point that no government, no authoritarian institution from that point on could ever again keep it all covered up and keep it away from us. And that's what I call the People's Disclosure Movement. That's when it was really formed, because it's all about a grassroots effort for us to become the disclosure. And so I was very clear, this is a numbers game. Get out there, I thought to myself, teach people how to do CE5, ask them to teach others, and keep the ball rolling as part of the People's Disclosure Movement so that we reach that tipping point. Some people might ask, well, do you have any idea when that is? And the answer is no. That may be a follow-on question, a follow-up question I might ask, knowing that I might not even get an answer to that, because this is all subject to human free will and how fast all of us are moving and doing our jobs. So I'm not sure that even the vaster ET intelligence would know exactly what that tipping point is, or they may. I just really focus on just creating more teams, teaching people, and someday we'll reach that point. And I, like many of you, I hope that's sooner than later. I want our People's Disclosure to just flood the planet and make this elephant in the room that nobody's talking about in the official circles, to the extent that we want to talk about, to make this visible and a daily reality for all of us. So that's basically my mission. I don't do anything more than just really cheerlead, organize, talk to people all day on social media, get them started, give them information, and I encourage them to start their own teams, start their own networks, because this is really a group mission. It's not about any big one ego in the middle, and we all know that ufology and other fields are full of people with big egos who want to make it all about them. And that's not what this is about. This is a people's movement that needs a lot of leaders. I'm happy to do my part in my role with ET Let's Talk, but I'm always encouraging people, others, to start their own websites, their own networks, and keep it going. Because it's like the internet. If any one node goes down, if they try to take out any one leader or a number of them, the whole network will reroute itself. There's just too many people doing too much and doing their own thing and cooperating with each other in a network. And that's what keeps it going and growing. And that's where the strength of it is. So basically, what I just outlined is my mission. Just grow those teams, teach people, and hope that we reach that tipping point. Or actually not hope, but know that we're working towards reaching that tipping point by taking positive action all the time.
Thank you, Kosta. I was wondering, okay, we've touched on that. Can you expand on the CE5 initiative?
Sure. The Global CE5 Initiative is simply the name I gave to the monthly meditations that we've been holding on Saturdays nearest the new moon, so that we have a darker sky, since 2010, October 2010. And as a matter of fact, today being almost October, we're closing our 8th year of doing these monthly meditations. It's during the Saturdays of those new moons that people come together and use the CE5 protocol to join with each other in visualization as a virtual team, and present ourselves as cosmic humanity with goodwill, with open, loving invitation, using our consciousness and the protocol to make connection. So that's what that Global CE5 Initiative is. It's that monthly effort, and I'm going to be continuing to do it as far as I know into the future, until I'm openly working with my ET friends here on Earth. We'll see when that will happen. But the idea, as you all realize here on the call, when you do something rhythmically over and over, it builds power. It builds a group field. You have your weekly meditations, and you know the power of this. Some people may come in and go out, but the idea is if you keep the germ of it going and building it on this rhythmic weekly basis, or in my case, monthly basis, you're going to build a powerful force, literally an energy force for good that will keep attracting new people and keep having an effect on its environment. And so that's the kind of like the spiritual, energetic idea behind this monthly meditation. Now, having said that, I am encouraging people all the time in the network and ET Let's Talk to do the ET contact whenever they want. If they want to do it every day, multiple times a day, bless them for that. But at the very minimum, I set up this monthly thing on one Saturday so that all of us who may never meet physically together, but who are part of this network, so that all of us, at least during that one time a month, can come together during a 24-hour period, wherever we are, link up with each other, and present ourselves as cosmic humanity.
Yes. So your website, etletstalk.com, is also a place for community and for people to meet online and to discuss their experiences, right?
Yeah, that's right. The membership is free because I want people to find it accessible. There's all kinds of information on there. People will upload their videos, their photos of their contact. If they have something to offer, like artwork or a seminar or something, they can create member pages up there. So it's all about the community. It was created to bring the people together and make it a safe place where a lot of people can tell their story. One thing I've been finding for the last 12 years I've been involved in this, and particularly the last 8 years while I've been really organizing the People's Disclosure Movement and doing the Global C5 Initiative, one thing I have found is as people discover ET Let's Talk, they tell me that they're outliers for right now. They're afraid to tell stories of what has happened to them. Even for positive experiences, which the overwhelming number are, but they don't have people who understand them in their environment. Their partner doesn't want to hear about it. Their family doesn't want to hear about it. Some people have almost been committed. Marriages have broken up, and other people have just stayed quiet all their lives. So my point is that when they find the ET Let's Talk community, I tell them the website is a safe place to tell their story, and they'll find other comrades there to listen and to share and to learn and to grow, so that they have some support finally. And I tell you, you can almost feel the feeling of relief over the email when someone writes to me and says, I am so glad I found this. I've been holding this in for decades, and now I can tell you all what happened. So ET Let's Talk is all about the community. We also have a map on there where if people choose, they can put their location and contact information, so that others who join and want to find somebody near them can just kind of scroll over the map and see the contact info and connect with someone and maybe form a team. So in that way, we try to provide a visual tool for people to find each other, because after all, we're human beings, we're social beings. Everybody wants community. They're always asking me, I live in this small town in Mississippi, is there anyone near me? Most often I have to tell people, no, there isn't. The movement isn't big enough yet that I can tell you, here's the name of someone next door, or go to the map and you'll find someone right next door. That does happen, but it doesn't happen often enough. And so I encourage people to still reach out to others on the map, even if they're not physically present or close, because the sense of someone answering you and becoming friends and sharing is still a great support network, whether or not you ever physically meet someday. So that's what ET Let's Talk is about. It's the central point where I conduct all the various phases of this work.
Thank you, Kosta, for that. And, you know, I benefited too in the beginning when I was first doing CE5s, and you directed me to some people in LA that I linked up with and did CE5s with. And so I know Let's Talk is a great resource for people. And it's true, when you find people that are like-minded and into the same things that you are in, it creates something bigger than, you know, the people involved. It just does. So I'm thinking that now might be a good time for us to talk about what is the CE5 protocol. And actually, let's start with what is the meaning of CE5? Why is it called that?
J. Allen Hynek, the famous astronomer who started out as a skeptic decades ago, but then became a believer in UFOs, I believe was the first to coin the definitions of close encounters, CE, close encounters of the first through fourth kind. And though I should know each of those 1 through 4 textbook definitions off the top of my head, I apologize that I don't. But let it just be known that each of those close encounters, CE 1 through 4, involves a passive experience, a different kind of experience in each of those 1, 2, 3, and 4 of an approach, of a communication, etc. And you can Google this, and it's actually somewhere on my website, I think, what the definition of those are. The major thing is that those are passive. You know, it happened to you. You were suddenly surprised, and there's a craft over your car, or you see something in a field that has landed, or you see a light in the sky. All passive. The difference between those 1 through 4s and close encounters of the 5th kind is that the 5th kind is human initiated by you. It's interactive, it's connected, and it's meant to be a conversation. And because it's human initiated, it puts the power back in your hands, because you decide when you want to sit down and initiate contact. Now, you may or may not be successful at that given time, but the decision is yours. You haven't been passive. You can choose the time and place that you feel safe and comfortable, and you can do the protocol and, you know, see what happens. And it's all been under your direction. And that's something that really plays into the People's Disclosure movement, because it's all about, for me, where is the power? I believe in our movement, the power is with the individual. What's happened in ufology for decades, up until this movement and other movements started, was that the authorities, whoever they were, whether it was the church, some government, some other institution, have always held, or what they perceived to hold, was the knowledge in their hands. They're the ones that we were all waiting for to disclose some announcement from a president, some announcement from a chancellor, whatever, to tell us they're here. And that power has always rested in their hands. Well, with the CE5, the power comes back to the individual and to the grassroots movement to initiate the contact, to see for themselves. I like to tell people that doing CE5 and succeeding means that you go from being a believer to a knower. And that's powerful. It changes lives. It changed mine, and it's changed the lives of a lot of people I know. And so that's what makes CE5 special, and what makes it the primary tool that one can use in the People's Disclosure movement to do our own disclosure, so that, you know, we just bypass all the governments, the churches, whatever. And someday we reach that tipping point by sharing our information with each other and growing our numbers until the whole world knows they're here, and nobody can cover it up. Nobody can deny it. And that's a real power of CE5. I hope I summarized that. Did that make sense?
Oh, it made absolute sense. It's kind of like the 100th monkey theory, right? I mean, at some point, we're all really going to know at a soul level that we're not alone here in the universe, that there are multiple groups of beings all over the place. And, you know, it's going to be really fun to get to meet them and someday be a part of a galactic society.
Yes. I like to call that cosmic humanity. I'd like to direct everyone here to just following on what I was just talking about humans reaching that tipping point. If you knew the number of humans that are ready for doing CE5, well, I'm about to astound you, because it astounds me every morning, having done the math. And what I mean by all that is, if you go to glocalities.com, that's glocalities.com, It's a website, and it's an internet research organization, which in 2015, at the end of 2015, and for a couple months into 2016, it did a polling of global adults between the ages of 18 and 65, and it created research that's so far one of its kind and the biggest that's ever been done, by asking adults through their methodology, and they're very scientific and very statistically oriented. But they were asking, what are the global attitudes towards extraterrestrials? Now, they had a lot of questions that they asked people, they took in their answers and created their results. And by the way, there's a download of a PDF on glocalities.com. I think you can click downloads up on the nav bar and get to this specific study about extraterrestrials. Here's my point with all that, and I'll summarize their research, which is what's relevant to what we're talking about right now. Two of the questions they asked during this 3-month study of 24,000 people in, I think, 20 or more countries, maybe 40 countries. I forget the numbers right now. And by the way, the demographics of this study included people from all the different geographic areas of the earth, different cultures, different religions, different belief systems, whatever, so that it was more of a snapshot of a cross-section of humanity. In other words, they weren't just creating this study about ETs by asking only people from the San Francisco Bay Area who are crystal gazers, New Age, whatever, this or that, which is something that would skew things. But this was more of a representative sample. So two of the questions that they asked were, the first one was, do you believe that alien civilizations exist? And by that they meant not just microbes, but full-on developed societies, civilizations. And by the way, I don't like the use of the word alien, but that's what they used. My star friends have asked that they be called star people, or star family, or star friends. But anyway, despite the nomenclature of this particular study, 47% of their respondents said, we believe in alien civilizations, that they exist. The next follow-on question that's relevant to what we're talking about here was, well, you believe they exist. Should we be contacting them? Do you believe we should? 60% of those people said yes. Now, never mind the people that said no to these, because that's part of another study, and you can go down another path of why people are afraid of contact or don't believe. That's another topic. I'm focusing right now on the happy path of people who said yes to this. So using those statistics I just cited of those who believe in alien civilizations, star people civilizations, and that we should be communicating with them, I extended their research. I have a computer science and math background. So I went back during the time they did their study and looked at the world population of adults all over the planet, not just their small sample size. And I applied their statistics, their percentages, to the whole global population of adults. The number I came up with of people who believe in what we're doing, this contact, because these civilizations exist, number 1.3 billion people. 1.3 billion. And now that's a sizable chunk of humanity that in theory supports what you and I are talking about doing here, about the People's Disclosure Movement. Now, granted, half of those people, like half of the Earth's population, is wondering where their next meal will come from the next day, down and trying to survive day to day. They're not going to pull out a lawn chair and start doing what we're able to do really easily, because we have most of us have our basic needs met, and we can look up at the stars. We have the time and the energy and the focus. So I'm not pretending that we need to reach 1.3 billion people to teach them what we're doing, because a lot of them have other things on their minds, like, am I going to be alive tomorrow? Or am I going to be burying my children tomorrow because they can't eat, et cetera, et cetera. And my heart goes out to them. And let me say that I'm doing this for future generations, and I know all of you agree with this, that why we're involved is that we want a better situation. We want a transformed planet. We want an event. We want talking, discourse with our star brothers and sisters, and using the technologies that I know that they will offer us to to heal our diseases, to bring about an end to poverty, an end to hunger, an end to war. We want a golden age. So let me just say that there's the spiritual component to what I'm doing that's behind all of this. It's not just about, look at the lights in the sky. Look what I captured on video. Let me put it up on YouTube. Aren't I cool? Let me see how many likes I can get. Well, that's cool because it does draw people in. I'm not putting that down, but it's not the whole story. The whole story is we're evolving as human beings, as a species, and these star civilizations are reaching out to us, the benevolent ones, because they want to help us. And they have ways to help us if we will just reach back and meet them halfway. And that's what the People's Disclosure Movement is about, raising our vibrations, making the effort, showing up, being the boots on the ground here to meet them halfway so that we can co-create. And I know that in those 1.3 billion people, their heart is in the right place and they want that kind of world too. We only have to reach a small percentage of them, I believe, to get to that tipping point that I talked about at the beginning of our discussion here. Again, I don't know what that number is, but I'm making the effort every day in every way I can to reach and teach many more of those people who are what I call the low-hanging fruit. They're people that already agree in theory. And if they only knew what you at PFC were doing and what I at ET Let's Talk was doing, they would be all lit up and wanting to help. It's just a matter of we got to get the word out there. And we have the tools like the internet, social media, to do that. So, we're all on the same page and working in our different ways for that better world by finding and activating people. And I know with your PFC group here that you're finding leaders and activists and communities. I'm all about the same thing. I'm teaching them to make a better world by reaching out to our cosmic cousins and brothers and sisters. Because guess what? The fact that they're visiting us, all the different races, means they've probably overcome the worst part of their natures to form positive societies, to be able to venture out into the stars and to help others who are maybe not as evolved as they are. So I look to them as a helping hand, not to do our work for us, because we still have to do our own work of getting along, but they still have some advice and guidance and they're willing to give it. And why wouldn't we want that? So doing CE5 is all part of connecting with them. And after we do the lights in the sky part, we do the love on the ground with them. We communicate and we talk and we learn and we teach.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. My next question was going to be about why should we care about having ET contact, and you certainly answered that. Along the same lines, though, I was going to ask about how do we know that we're contacting positive ETs, and is there something that we can do to promote positive contact?
As part of the protocol that I promote, and there's 7 steps to it, it's on the etletstalk.com website. I have a part in there which asks people, only if they want, to call upon any spiritual, and I mean that in the broadest sense of the word. I don't mean any one religion over another, whatever, but to call upon any spiritual protection and high vibration beings, forces, whatever, to join them, to protect them. I believe that this is important to a lot of people. It's important to me. I'm not naive enough to believe that all of life has evolved to wanting to be benevolent all at the same time. Eventually we'll all get there, back to our source, and become the full potential of love that we know we are. But in the meantime, there are different agendas out there. So what I would say is use whatever protection that feels right to you during the protocol to feel safe. And the fact is that part of the protocol is using love. This is consciousness. It's about our imaginations, about love, about our goodwill and good intentions. That raises our frequency, our vibration. Anybody that's negative, whether they're an interdimensional being here on Earth or traveling from the stars, cannot pierce the shields of love and the fields of love that we create. And that to me is a natural protection. And I'm not being naive about I really believe this is a scientific principle. And I've had encounters with negative energies and have been able to neutralize them through this power of love. And possibly a lot of people on this, in this communication right now that we're having, have been able to do the same thing. So we're not naive, but we stay positive, and we know that the other negative things exist, but their time is ending. I really believe that with our planet ascending in its frequencies and carrying all its life forms with it, including us, that we are going to a better place. And meanwhile, we can protect ourselves by aligning ourselves with the greater teachers and the energies that we have out there with our planet, with each other, and making it about love and the protection that love brings.
Okay, so now we've got people curious about how we go about doing this. So can you talk about the various things that go on at CE5 events?
Sure. Let me start by saying the 7 steps that I have on the website, and I encourage people just to join as a free member. And when you do, and you log into the members page, there's a link there for the CE5 protocol. I realize that most people, most groups will take those 7 steps and everybody customizes them. So there is no CE5 police, at least not on my part, that is going around everybody and saying, you must do this word for word exactly as Kosta has said. I'm not into that ego trip. What I do ask people is, look at that as a template, as a powerful one that works. If you want to take it word for word, sure, start there. But in general, if you're going to change and add something to it, like maybe you want certain crop circle tones, maybe you want ritual drumming that gets you into higher state, or some beautiful music, classical music or new age music, whatever enhances you relaxing, letting go of your negativities and your everyday concerns and getting into a beautiful, coherent state with yourself and with your group there, then that's fine to add that to the protocol. I just ask people at their core to enter it in a state of goodwill, of loving intention, of invitation to our star friends, asking them to meet us halfway. We're not there to shoot them down or be negative or hostile or whatever. That stuff won't work for CE5. So again, at the very core, I do ask people that even if they do modify those 7 steps, to keep in mind, it starts with goodwill, starts with your consciousness, opening your heart, connecting in a heart space with everyone around you and with the groups around the world, because that group field is always there. You can tap into it. It's been there for 8 years and it's growing all the time. So you have that as an advantage to kind of supercharging your particular effort at any time. So basically you can do a C5, what I say is anytime, anywhere, in your living room. It's not just about being outside. Let me say that I'm the first who still loves the light in the sky. I want to ride on one of those ships, or ride on one. I love to see them flitting about the sky and doing stuff that terrestrial craft can't, and reaching back at us when we flash at them, communicating. I love all that, but the truth is the communication, the contact with our star friends comes in so many other ways. And I do mention that, I think, in step 7 of the protocol on the website. You can receive lucid dreams. You can get telepathic messages during your CE5 encounter. You can have electrical phenomena around you. I have had my smartphone, which was turned off during a CE5, turn itself on and immediately go to a song in my playlist that was about gazing at the stars and playing itself. That's just one example, and I have hundreds like those that I hear from other people of communication that happens because I think ET finds it easy to manipulate electrical phenomenon, like radar detectors, magnetometers, for example. They find it easy, and it's also a non-threatening way for people who might be a little bit on the edge or a little bit fearful. Certainly having contact made by like the example I gave, where your phone turns on and it plays a cool cosmic song that you've been listening to, that's harmless. And you sit there with your jaw dropping, go, WTF, man, I did it. This is
You
great.
absolutely do sit there with your jaw open, because that's happened to me.
With your jaw hanging open. And it still happens. Yes, it still happens to me. And I hear those stories all the time. So my point is, there's lots of ways they will communicate. I think they're able to discern, and they can read us, and they know what our limits are. If all we can handle is some electrical phenomenon without getting a little freaky or creeped out, that's what they'll do. There's other people I know who've had craft fly over their cars and stop their cars, and they get out and take videos, kind of thing, because those people can handle that. So it's a whole continuum of what people can handle. And I think that ET intelligence, our brothers and sisters, they're not there to scare us. They're there to communicate and to find out where our comfort level is, and then start the conversation with us there and work with us. So it's all about a continuing communication. Therefore, you can do this alone. You can do it in a group. You can do it in your living room. You can find your favorite place in nature. It's always nice to get in a circle. With the protocols, you'll circulate heart energy amongst yourselves. I have people create a huge magnetic sphere in the middle of their circle that they all connect to with their hearts. And from there, they send a beam up into space. It's a nice visualization. So we use our imaginations, the stillness of our mind, the openness of our hearts, and the connection with our human brothers and sisters all over the world who are also doing this. So that's what a CE5 is. It's just getting together yourself or alone, following these steps, opening your heart, visualizing, and then imagining the joy of our star brothers, sisters, and cousins who see our beams going up, and then connecting with us, and then responding. So that's the basic thing. It's not, I was going to say it's not rocket science, but it's StarCraft science. It does work. I won't say everybody will be successful every time. We still have off nights, but most of the time, even if we're outside, let's say it's a cloudy night and we're not going to get the cool lights in the sky, our walkie-talkies will just start talking, and we'll ask questions, and they will respond with squawks, 1 or 2 or 3. As a means of communicating with us. Or someone will get telepathic messages in the group. So we have to be open when we do these experiences, that the communication can come in a lot of ways, as long as we're open to it and we're very vigilant.
Would it be all right with you, Kosta, if we post your basic steps in the protocol with your website on our website?
Yeah, sure.
Great. You know, I've had a similar experience. One time we met at Santa Monica Beach, and it was overcast and cloudy, and it didn't look like we were going to have a very good evening. But we went ahead and we did the protocol anyway. And I had 3 small lights. They were like touch lights that you turn on by just touching them. And I put them in the shape of a triangle, and we did our meditation, and we looked up in the sky, and the clouds had parted in the circle right above our head, and there were 3 ships in a triangle matching our triangle on the ground.
That's awesome.
And we were just blown away.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that was only one of the things that happened that night. You know, it was an amazing, amazing evening.
You can't make that stuff up. Well, I guess you could make it up, but I don't have that good of an imagination. When that happens, I'm thrilled. I'm really happy for you. And I'll tell you really quickly a story along those lines. In a group of 40 people several years ago at Mount Shasta, on a cloudy night, with a little bit of drizzle in the air, we still went ahead and did what you did. We did the meditation. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, right above our circle, high up, a circle had opened up, a clear spot in the sky in the shape of a circle that was black with stars twinkling through. And there was one star that was flashing irregularly that didn't belong there. And that was a ship in the middle of all that blackness. And none of the rest of the clouds were moving. There wasn't a wind. The sky still stayed cloudy, except for that huge circle of clear, starry-filled space. And over the next couple minutes, from the middle of that circle, you saw little wisps of white, like a cloud, start coming out of nowhere from there, getting bigger and thicker and larger. And after a couple minutes, my wife Hollis, who was next to me, pointed at that and said, "Oh my God, it's a heart." You know, they had formed a cloud heart, you know, this shape right there in that black circle. And at that moment, one of the members across our circle, one of the human beings, said, "I just got a telepathic message from them up there, and they said they love us." And it was obvious they did. You know, just like your triangle, that heart shaped appeared out of nowhere. And I can't make that up. I really, that kind of stuff really does alter your life, because you realize you've been seen, you've been heard, and you're loved. And that's what I want to leave everyone here with. You probably know all this already, but the benevolent civilizations that are here, I believe, and from my knowledge and my communications with them, are here in overwhelming numbers. Any negativities that have been here before, either interdimensionally or from other races, are being neutralized actively by forces that are greater than they are. The galactics that have come here are immeasurably powerful and compassionate and loving. And those are who my allies are. And they keep showing me and others in so many ways. You know, they're saying to us, "We're here, we're clear, get used to it."
You know, that's exactly what we need to remember, Kosta, is that we are here, we are loved, and they want to help us. So we need to be gracious and, you know, respect them and return their love and do contact. You know, this is part of our future.
If we want to have a future, it's part of our tasks. We've got to do this as a human species. I agree with you, Lynn. The onus really is on us. They're not going to just drop a golden age on us. We have to show that we can spiritually mature and establish right human relations between ourselves and solve the messes that we made, that we're capable of solving. Having said that, I think there's some messes we've made as humans that are probably beyond our ability now to solve. And I think that's where these star civilizations can lend a hand with technologies they have. So that's why I consider it a partnership. We do, as humans, our part to get along, to create the proper human structures and institutions, and learn to love one another, no matter, and this is hard these days, at least in the US, no matter what political ideology your neighbor might have, there's a real challenge. But the survival of our species depends on it. We cannot keep beating each other with nuclear clubs over the head and expect that the planet's going to take any more of this. So I really believe we have the potential. We can make our golden age on Earth, and we have all that help that we've been talking about along the way. You know, here's what I tell people on interviews, and even my wife was among these. When I first went to my first training at Mount Shasta, with that week that changed my life, she supported me and said, "You know, it's a big universe. I know they're out there, and I know they're here, but what's that got to do with my daily life? I've got to run my business, got to pay my bills, you know, got to take care of being a human and surviving. Go have fun," she said to me. "I support you, but I don't see why it's relevant to my life, what they're doing here." Well, there's a story there where during that week, they followed, our ET friends followed the energy for me making contact there to our bedroom back home here in the Bay Area. And 3 or 4 Arcturians appeared at the foot of her bed and communicated with her and just blasted love at her very physically. This was not an out-of-body experience. This was eyes wide open. Even though she's clairvoyant, she's internally clairvoyant. She saw them with her physical eyes right there at the bed, and they wanted to know who she was. "Who were you?" And she was startled. She felt their love and just wanted to bask in it. So my point is, it became very personal for her. Now, I'm not saying that that is what's necessary for every person on the planet to become a believer or to come into our camp. But here's what I tell people on interviews. Look, if these societies, cosmic societies, are here, and let's say we know they have advanced technologies like free energy, medical technologies that'll cure our cancers and our other deadly diseases, um, replicators, DNA, rejuvenators, all kinds of things. Wouldn't you want part of that? Just for example, I ask people, if there were free energy and the energy component of everything that we produce, if the cost of it were taken out of what we make, the things we make and use, things would be a lot cheaper. It would transform the energy system, or the economic system of the planet. Your house, your car, your computer, your city would all run on free, pollution-less, infinite energy, solving our climate crisis, restructuring our economic system so that people could start thriving instead of surviving, ending hunger and all that. And that's just free energy. And I ask people, how would that change your life if you got up in the morning and instead of having to go to that job that you hate, and most of us hate our jobs or don't like our jobs, let's be real. And I'm not saying everybody, but you hear a lot about this, it's like, I got to make a living. But imagine if you only had to work 10 hours a week because the world had been restructured through free energy and through other technologies. You no longer have to work as hard. You could increase you could fulfill your human potential. Learn to dance, play the harp, start that band you've been wanting to do it, or that show. The human spirit, I think, is infinite. And all that energy that we put out to surviving and to beating each other with clubs would instead be redirected in that new world towards an everyday life that you would wake up in the morning and look forward to. And you wouldn't have to lose your loved ones to some deadly disease. And imagine the joy right there. Or you wouldn't have to be sending sons and daughters to some foreign land to fight for some elite's corporate plan to get fossil fuels out of the ground. This has very practical aspects to it. And I try to make people who believe in our cosmic brothers and sisters, but don't understand how that would change their daily lives. I try to help them bridge that from the lights in the sky down to the new age, the golden age on the ground that will fulfill every human being and have us getting along with each other. It will be a new world, and it's very personal.
Yes. Kosta, do you know what star system you came from before you came here?
I don't know 100%, but I have a knowing, yes.
Do you want to
It's not 100%. I don't mind. It's Syrian.
Okay.
Not S-Y-R-I-A-N. It's S-I-R. I've been here a long time, since the beginning. And I made a vow that I would stay here until Gaia was liberated. And we're close to that.
We certainly are.
This is a destination planet. It's one of the jewels, just the jewels. And she deserves, our mother deserves everything we can do to help save her right now, because we're at a moment in history where we as a species can topple over the edge of the cliff into the abyss, or we can launch ourselves to the stars. And I'm all about launching myself and bringing as many people with me as I can. So that's why I made my vow to stay here. I suspect many on this broadcast here also have lineage that goes back to the stars. I mean, why would this be so weird? We know a lot of civilizations have come here in our ancient past, have had all kinds of interactions with humans, negative and positive. So there are probably millions of people who do have some star family lineage. And believe me, obviously in my community, I run into it all the time. People saying, I never felt I fit in my family. I had recollections of this planet I came from this system, or I've been visited and had messages from my star family from this place or that place. So it's not uncommon to have this kind of conversation. And I don't mind telling you what I suspect about myself. And I could be wrong, but I'm going with it right now. And as a matter of fact, and it doesn't really matter. What's mattering to me every day is I, as a human who chose to incarnate here, what is it I can do every day to carry forward the ET Let's Talk mission and the People's Disclosure Movement? I'm focused on right now and moving into the future, where I am in the body I'm in, and in the environment I find myself, and finding my allies like all of you so that we can work this together. And later on, when our ET friends are here on the ground and we're sitting around, we can start talking about where we're from and telling stories and jokes about our star systems and stuff. I look forward to those conversations. But right now it's like, let's get to work.
Right. We're all waiting to get to work. Do you have any intel from the Galactics about the event or anything that's coming up?
I ask from time to time, and they refuse to give a date because they say it is complicated even for them, they who have a larger vision. We've been shown an energetic ball. Think about like a ball of yarn with many, many tangles, and all those tangles are all the different timelines and possibilities. I think even the Galactics don't know, or even some of the advanced members of our planetary, our homies here, our spiritual teachers here, don't exactly know when that is. Obviously, they tell us they're working night and day in our terms to bring that about. But again, they've showed us a tangle of all the possibilities being like a ball of yarn, and it's just so complex that to pinpoint any one day is foolish. And believe me, I've lived long enough that I've seen predictions of this day and that day come and go, and I have internalized some of them and waited, and then just been crestfallen when things didn't happen. I don't do that anymore, and I don't think anyone can pick a date. Human free will is the larger part of it. And yet I believe that there is a larger galactic will, the solar being that inhabits or that informs our physical sun, and the beings that are his and her higher selves. They do have a plan. And I think at some point, despite human free will, there will come a point of no return where things will happen. And again, I don't know where that is, when that is, but I do trust that we will not be allowed to make a mess of things forever. I think we still could destroy ourselves, but they're not working for that. We're working on whatever positive timelines we have. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yes.
It's a difficult one. I don't claim to know the answers.
Well, I know that their perception of time and space is vastly different than ours. Maybe they go by planetary alignments, or who knows what they go by to judge what we consider as time and space. And it is all, I think a lot of it has to do with us and where our human consciousness is going, and how we take hold of the future. So probably that isn't an answerable question.
No, and that's well put. I think you said in several sentences what it took me half an hour to say, so thanks.
Well,
that's a good summary.
You beautifully went through this easily and with grace, and you really didn't need me asking questions. You did fine. And I appreciate, the time that you took today to speak with us. And do you have any parting words?
Sure. Let's remain allies. I welcome people to come to the website, etletstalk.com, and sign up. And what you'll do is you'll start getting my monthly invitations to join with our virtual teams all over the planet. to do the contact and become part of the group field and help grow it. So basically, that's what I ask is make your own contact and teach somebody else to do it and encourage them to teach the next person. I'm still looking for that tipping point. So I welcome everyone here to join the ET Let's Talk community as we work under the People's Disclosure movement as we work towards that tipping point. I want to put myself out of business, basically, and help me do that.
Yes.
So
yes.
I don't have to do this, because we'll have our People's Disclosure, we'll have our ET brothers and sisters and cousins here and working with us, and then we'll start on the next thing that we're supposed to be doing. But meanwhile, we're in this thing, and I welcome all of you to join me in doing this phase of it. And I thank you in advance.
Go ahead.
That's all. I just thank you in advance.
Yeah. As much as I would like to have a date that I could put on my calendar, I think I just look forward to that day that when we can party together, you know, all of us, the galactic family and us on Earth, you know, and I look forward to that day.
Same here. Let's hold that vision.
Let's do. Thank you, Kosta. Thank you very much for joining us, and you're always welcome.
Okay.
You're part of our community.
What's that?
I said you are part of our community too.
Thank you. Thank you. Many communities.
Yeah.
One human family. Thank you very much, everyone. And greetings to you. And I hope to be talking to you sometime on email or on social media.